Yeah, and truth be told, man, excuse me, I'm just getting back to it. I believe I have a responsibility. You know what I'm saying? I have a responsibility because a lot of times in those places I was in, just being there, you know what I mean, brought up in a negative environment, you know what I mean, that all we knew, that was the best place to be, you know what I mean, because at the end of the day, although we didn't have a lot, we had each other. You know what I'm saying? We had each other. So that build bonds that last until today. Those bonds aren't easily broken. Like, I can go back to neighborhoods that I haven't been in 20 something years. And I'm like, you know what I'm saying? And it's the same thing. I bump into individuals. It's like we was talking to each other yesterday or last week or last year, that type of situation. You know what I'm saying? So it's a blessing of sorts, you know what I'm saying? But the situation as it remains, man, is that I have a responsibility because a lot of people haven't seen what I've seen and haven't gone through what I've gone through. You know what I mean? So with my situation, like I said, you know, I became a study of history. You know what I'm saying? And history, as everyone knows, goes back. Because the history is the study of the past. That's all it means. History is the study of the past. And if you really want to know how far back you can go all the way back to the universe. Like that's what history is. History. Right? Because what you go back into is the unwritten history. So, for myself, like we already know, the sun is 4 billion years old. That's history. That's in history that you go back to. The sun is older than the planet Earth. You know what I mean? So when you start to study the planets, you know what I mean? And right now, like I've gone into all of that, man. Like my thing, this is how I can break it down to you, right? The solar system, right? This is the planets. This is off top. Excuse me. This is the planets. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto. I always get the last ones confused, right? So now, coming right back. Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, Earth, Venus, Mercury, the Sun. You know what I'm saying? That's front to back. That's all the planets. So, just breaking that down. Now, my level, man. But anyway, so like I'm saying, so this is not music for me. You know what I'm saying? It's not just music. I love to have the platform the music enables me to have, because there's a lot of things, a lot of jewels that I have, man. I was blessed to have, because like I said, the older ones, the older gods, the older heads, the older G's drop nuggets on me. You know what I mean? At that age. So I'm fighting, I'm struggling to understand, because, you know what I mean? With knowledge comes understanding. You know what I mean? And that's if you look at the first things, but first you have to have what? You have to have wisdom. You know what I mean? You have to have wisdom. So when you break it down to that extent, you have to learn first to get knowledge. When you learn, you have to have experience with that knowledge until you have understanding. You gain understanding. Understanding is mastery. When you understand yourself to the greatest extent of understanding is mastery, basically. Because if you understand yourself, it doesn't really mean that you've mastered yourself. It means you understand yourself. But the highest level of understanding is mastery, right? And how we could break it down is this: simple. You know what I mean? When you go to school, right? When you understand something, a lot of people who've understood enough, they graduate high school. Then where they go? They go into college. When you understand that enough, and you pass and all that, where you go to? You go to you go to graduate school. When you understand that enough, you get your diploma, and now what? You can work. You now become a master. You've mastered that field of understanding, whatever that field may be. Medicine, law, whatever. You know what I mean? So I'm letting you know now, there's something else, right? Because as we all know, you know what I mean? Just because you've been able to master a specific field doesn't mean that you've been able to gain awareness or universal awareness. what that means is that you've been able to master your specified field. You know what I mean? So usually, you've earned something in that because you've studied that for so long. It's like Kung Fu. You know what I mean? Kung Fu doesn't mean that you're a master thinker. It means that you're great at martial arts because you've studied martial arts. You haven't studied biology or whatever the case. That's what you study. If you study the universe, you become a cosmologist. You know what I mean? Cosmology. Cosmogony, not cosmetology. Don't get that. That's not to be confused with cosmetology. That's cosmogony. You know what I mean? The cosmos. So, with that being said, man, like I said, I do music. And that's what I was letting you guys know earlier if you check the Live and Direct series of why I believe that I'm going to make it in music. You know what I'm saying? Because music is a specified field. It's very specific. It's music. You know what I mean? You only could do a set amount of things in the music field. You know what I mean? You could be a composer of music, either play instruments. You could be a producer of music. You could be an engineer. You could be a performing artist. You could be a recording artist. Then you got the other things. You could be a manager, a marketer, promoter, A&R, label executive, lawyer, right? So that's what you can be in music. You know what I mean? Or if it is in the event for people who invent instruments, you could be an inventor or whatever the case may be. But outside of that, or you may own a studio, radio, you could be a radio announcer. That's not really music, but you're in the music field, etc. and so forth. Copyrights, mechanical engineer, stuff, publishing, whatever the case may be. That is set, basically. Like you have a set amount of fields that are in the music field or positions. So for someone like myself, you know what I'm saying? Like I told you, I was able to gain universal awareness. Right? So usually it's easier when you take the big thing and you study the little things. Right? Which means that usually you look at the big picture. It's easier to study the big picture than it is to study the little things around it. You know what I'm saying? So usually you find those who come from a larger understanding. You know what I mean? Universal awareness. Stuff like that. When it comes to thinking in a specified field, whatever that field may be. See, it's easier for me because it's talent. Plus, I'm talented. You'll find that person usually will be on an inside track to having success because now, when it's time to think, you're thinking with the best of them. You know what I'm saying? But when I think, this is not me thinking for myself. I'm thinking based on, first, what I'm looking to do, what needs to be done, and then what others would think. You know what I'm saying? So that's thought is usually broken down into three things. It's three parts of thinking. You know what I'm saying? There's three parts of thinking. And a lot of people, you should know that. You know what I'm saying? When you have a thought, you know what I'm saying? There's three parts of that. You know what I mean? In relation to, and I'm speaking about acting on your thoughts. There's three parts of that before it becomes an action. Right? Because you have to think about it first. You know what I'm saying? You have to think about it. That has to come up from somewhere. Basically, you have to compose the thought. Right? When that thought is composed, you now either will make a direct either action on that thought, or you make an indirect, meaning that you'll either go with it or you say no and go against it. But that's the other part of the thought, because a thought is very long. Like you could say, I was thinking. You know what I mean? I was thinking about doing something, whatever the case may be. The thought doesn't stop. You know what I'm saying? The thought goes all the way to the action. You know what I mean? So you have it's usually not just one thought. It's a process of thoughts. that make an action or a complete thought. You know what I'm saying? So when you think about something, then you act on it, and then you move. Now, and why it was actually a little confusing when I was speaking, because I spoke about action. And action is not movement. Action is just because you have action thoughts. Right? So when you have a thought, then there's an action part of that makes you either do it or not do it. And then that thought, if you don't do it, that may now manifest into another thought and make you do something else. So that's thought. You know what I'm saying? And that's the unseen. There's not many people that have really been able to break down thought, right? Because you got philosophy. That's more philosophy. That's you can find that in philosophy. If you really look and go far enough, you'll find that in the Greek civilization, right? The great thinkers of Greece, Socrates, Aristotle, which Aristotle was more so mathematics, stuff like that, Plato, but mostly Socrates. When they spoke, they weren't they weren't the people who went to college with specified knowledge. They were the ones who learned about the world and started to think and learned how to think and manifest into philosophy. You know what I'm saying? So now, they were there. If you study Greek history, you'd find that they were the ones in the streets. They were the ones acting just like rappers right now. You know what I'm saying? You have rappers who have never gone to college, who don't have a master's degree, who don't have a diploma, who don't have a degree. But yet, they speak about many different things. That's a philosophy. That's hip-hop. So when you find that, you realize that even then and even now, they're intertwined and interrelated. You can relate to that because people can relate to learning off of your own experience. I mean, AKA LOX, the LOX. I'm speaking about Jadakiss, Sheik, and Styles P. Learning off your own experience, that's philosophy. You know what I'm saying? So now you have it, whereas now people, a lot of times you have the smartest people, but then they lack common sense. Common sense. Right? They say we have 5 senses. You know what I mean? Thought is the 6th sense. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the thought. That's the 6th sense. We have 6 senses. You know what I mean? And 6 major ones. Main senses. You know what I mean? And in that in itself, like, you got to be able to break down and master the human body and the human mind, the human being. You know what I'm saying? When you've been able to do that, you've attained mastery of thought, but to just self-mastery. Not only yourself, but also others as well. Because you have self-mastery, right? And usually like a guru, you know what I mean? A guru now has attained a level of self-mastery to now where they can teach others. Now I mean, based on that, but you got to be up to that level. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, man, peace to all the intellectual groups, man. Like, you know what I mean? The gods, the nation of gods and earths. You know what I mean? I was blessed, very fortunate to be a part of the nation of gods and earths for a short period of time. The nation of Islam. You know what I'm saying? The Kemetic sciences and universities and all of that. We be getting rain. It's actually raining right here instead of snow. So we in the Amazon, man. It's the Amazon jungle. You know what I mean? It's El Dorado, for those who may or may not know. You know what I mean? A lot of people believe that the Inca dynasty was only in Bolivia, Peru, and Chile. But actually, it extended all the way into Guyana, which was actually the Guyana highlands, all the way here. And this was actually El Dorado. And there's actually there's findings that you could look that up as well. Now, I mean, you can look that up in relation to the Golden City, El Dorado, so on. So, you know, man, like I said, man, at the end of the day, like, we can go deep, like, we can go really deep with this, you know what I'm saying? We can go really deep with this, but, I'm Mars Noel, man. There's a reason I'm Mars Noel, you know what I'm saying? You gotta look that up and see what that means. But, you know, everything happened for a reason. I'm just chilling right now, waiting on my turn, you know what I'm saying? Not waiting subjectively, but waiting objectively. You know what I mean? I'm objectively waiting. You know what I'm saying? Meaning I'm taking advantage as they come. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to do anything that's going to place me in the penitentiary or take me out of commission. You know what I mean? So, I got to take my time with it. But I appreciate y'all, man. I didn't want to leave y'all hanging on anything. You know what I'm saying? So, you already know. Peace.